to all the dispossessed youth of Africa, for perpetuation of communion with ancestral spirits through the fight for African freedom, and in the firm faith that the dead, the living, and the unborn will unite to build the destroyed shrines. Selah. Hello and welcome, beloveds, to another episode of Ask Dr. Mumbi. My name is Dr. Mumbi Saraki. How you doing? How's everything going? I really do pray that you are well in all your ways and that you're moving into living life truly on your own terms. A shout out to every single person that supports us on Patreon, our Patreon family. I do share a lot more information on there, especially about the pandemic, things that we just can't share on certain platforms. Shout out to everyone that sends us love donations through PayPal. We appreciate, love you so much. And shout out to people who have been watching me since day one. Obembe. Is it Obembe? Yeah, man. Shout out to you for always just uplifting people in the comments. There was a lot of excitement last week when I did a story about how the first ever meeting between the Caribbean community and the African Union took place or was taking place on Thursday. They had a live stream up. Many, presidents and prime ministers spoke. Really, there were many good wins, which is why I'm here today. Because a lot of you asked me what were the tangibles, what were the things, what were the concrete kind of resolutions that affect I&I's life. And that's and there were some amazing ones, and that's what I wanted to share with you today. Just some of the things that were discussed and the direction that they're going into. And, of course, there were those who believed like nothing will happen. Most of them are puppets, this is just for show. But beloveds, it's all so significant. The fact that the first ever meeting was hosted by the Eastern Gate, Kenya has its own significance, beloveds, and just even the energy they've put together. I've always said we've got to look at these things spiritually. Otherwise, we totally miss the point. And if we look at what happened spiritually, as I told you, it was like the seats of power came together and there was a unification that happened at that top level, which now, orchestrates things and makes it easier at such a time as this, beloveds. That's also what got me excited, the timing. Like, it was supposed to happen in 2020, which would have been epic, but it happened now. Like, it couldn't be stopped. Because with everything that happened with COVID and everything, they were trying to, it was postponed, etc., etc. I personally wish that they had met physically. But the virtual is good enough. Although now they've taken down the live feed, so it's either some people recorded it or some people have snippets. I'm not sure if they're going to put it up in the on the African Union page or the CARICOM page, but we'll see. I'll definitely let you guys know if they do that. I'll pin a comment or something like that. So some of the concrete proposals, and I really want to thank the person who sent this to me. These have actually been put together by the ambassador to CARICOM, David Commission, and he's so that's who he's even put his address here. But he was saying, some of the concrete proposals made at the first ever Africa-Caricom summit by Prime Ministers Brown and Motley. So Antigua and Barbados, they pushed for the establishment of a forum of African and Caribbean states to be coordinated jointly by the Secretariat of CARICOM and the African Union. They designated the 7th of September as African Caribbean Day, and they said they'll be staging an annual CARICOM summit on the September 7th. And this is definitely something that even if they're declaring it, it's very close, beloveds. Actually, when I'm recording this, it's actually the Ethiopian New Year. It's very close to the New Year calendar of our original seasons. So everything is it's deep. And what if we were to take this day on to give it other, spiritual dimensions? Something to think about. Let me know in the comments. So they said, charge the secretariats of CARICOM and the African Union to produce within 6 months an Africa-Caricom charter and a memorandum for understanding for the operationalization of the forum. And this is the amazing one. They want to establish a multilateral air service agreement between the African Union and CARICOM so that there could be direct flights from various different African countries directly to the Caribbean. Signing of a double taxation agreement, also, a huge proposal between the African Union and CARICOM, which would mean that if you're living and working, like now, for example, right now as YouTubers in Africa, we're getting a double taxation where the divided states is withholding taxes, and then we also pay taxes here. So so there's a lot of those double taxation agreements because countries aren't in alignment. But now they're saying that they would actually scrap that. And the big one that everyone is really hoping actually materializes is the removal of visas for Africans to allow hassle-free travel to the Caribbean and vice versa. And these are actually the proposals by the Caribbean side. These Prime Minister Gaston Brown of Antigua and Barbuda. That sounds like a Mzungu name. I don't know, but but that's basically one of the things we're looking for. Removal of visas, beloveds. That would be absolutely huge. And also for CARICOM nationals traveling to Africa. Huge, huge, huge. So Barbados, they actually proposed the establishment of a regular weekly direct airline flight between African country and one CARICOM member state, even if it means that the African Union and CARICOM may have to provide some modest financial or other support to the commencement phase of such a venture. Huge. And there is actually a lady who had contacted me, and they were even they were going through getting the licensing agreements to create this. I can't remember what island she was on, but people are doing things behind the scenes. And if you're serious about something like this, or you're already on the path, she was looking for people to partner with, so hit me up. I love that. Yes. So they wanted the establishment of a joint AU CARICOM electronic mass media platform or mechanism that facilitates the flow of news, information, and artistic programming between Africa and the Caribbean for the benefit of our two peoples. Controlling the narrative. Not even controlling the narrative, but just sharing our collective narrative, creating our own group think. You see, what we should be looking at with all of these proposals, because I think what's going to happen is they're now going to be made into like memorandums, and then every country will have to vote them through their parliaments, etc., etc. But there is a process. But you can also push for that process. You can find out what's happening in your country, and you can participate. Well, here in Kenya we have public participation, so you can even go and give your 2 cents, or just write to your member of parliament and tell them that you're interested in this deal, that's in this particular foreign policy agreement, etc., etc. So there is many things, but as citizens, we should now be, different private sectors should be looking at all of these proposals and thinking, where can I put myself? Like this one of establishing a joint AU CARICOM electronic mass media platform. Like already, if the government is going to create the policies for that, all of you, internet geniuses should now be looking at how to do that. This is how we create our synergies, and this is how we use, because these are like bridges. It's like the presidents built these bridges between us and our Caribbean brothers and sisters, and we now have to secure them, make them pretty, walk across them, and use them. So let me know what you think about all this. So they also wanted to establish an African CARICOM public-private partnership dedicated to mobilizing resources and deploying them in critical cutting-edge projects centered around new renewable energy, digital technology, etc., etc. And lastly, this was Prime Minister Mia Mottley of Barbados's proposals, a collective commitment to participate fully in the upcoming 22nd high-level, whatever, UN General Assembly. Well, actually, it's important. In the commemoration of the 20th anniversary of the 2021 UN World Conference Against Racism, and to jointly use that high-level event to advance the claims for reparations within the process of the United Nations. I just don't believe anything that can work with the United Nations. So that's what the Caribbean proposed. Let's take a short break. When we come back, I'll go into some of the proposals that came from African presidents. We'll be right back.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, Africa.
Welcome back, beloveds, to Ask Dr. Mumbi. My name is Dr. Mumbi Seraki. And don't forget that we do have this new segment called Ask Dr. Mumbi. You can always email us, drmumbi@drmumbishow.com. My team goes through the various questions and we pick, the most popular to kind of cover as the spirit leads. Now, the sad thing is, beloveds, we heard what the Caribbean community, had to say, the things that they want with the African Union. But when I went to look at what the African presidents, the points that they had made, no local newspaper has picked up the story. Maybe I'll wait till next week and see what happens. Maybe we'll see some change, maybe we'll see something. But it just tells you how we are not in control of our narrative, number one, because I've told you that most of the media in Africa is actually foreign owned, and they only push the narratives that they want to push. And so not even one article, beloveds, at least here in East Africa, for the newspapers and the online journals that I try to, that we usually go through, not even one. And when I even looked on Twitter, not much interest, not much excitement, which says, number one, that a lot of these presidents have lost the support of the people, or the people aren't even paying attention, or they didn't even publicize it enough, or do they even really care? And number two is that, of course, the powers that be don't want the collective to put this into their consciousness and start to create it spiritually and mentally. Because if they give us that information, everyone would get excited and would start to, create, script the connection, see it, feel it, get excited about it. And that's why I say we shouldn't really focus on these presidents, but they have done something that has to be done on that level, because we've all given them our collective powers in our collective nations. So as much as we want to come together, if these guys didn't come together, it would be impossible for us to come together. I really do believe that we are going to get tangibles like visa-free, between different nations, but it's going to have to be something that we lobby as a people. And we show, the interest and excitement about. Because all these politicians, they want cheap, quick wins. So if they see that, this is something that the people are interested in, then they'll do it. But you remember the points I shared, especially the one about creating, the governments want to create a platform. That's something now we should do, because when they state these things, it does something in the heavenlies, because I keep telling you, it's our minds that are creating the reality. And it shows you that we have so much work to do, beloveds. Whether they did it sincerely, whether they held this meeting sincerely, whether they held it insincerely, whether they were, puppets of Babylon as they did it, it doesn't matter. The fact is they did it, and it has extreme spiritual significance. But it's sad that I haven't seen any kind of summary, no summary, beloveds. Everyone just talking about the pandemic. And people are not, and when you look through Twitter, like I was just looking for comments from all over the world, it wasn't anywhere. Which tells you also something, that I really don't believe that no one knew about this, with so many different heads of states participating. So is there like a media blackout on it? And why would there be a media blackout in Africa on this? So, people were talking a historic first African-Caricom summit was held virtually, attended by heads of state, of government, of African Union and CARICOM. Like, many bigwigs were there, but no one is talking about it. And, a lot of people had a lot to say. Someone was saying, this is Musan Jufu. He was saying, if they are serious, they should turn the African Union organization into the Africa-Caricom and stop cheap diplomacy. Even if it is cheap diplomacy, let's start to understand how this world really works and how we can take opportunities like this to work to our advantage. Of course, Babylon has created so many roadblocks because of how it would have to be passed. Like, they'll probably, I think for the next meeting, as I said, they'll come up with some resolutions. Then they'll pass them to, the different secretariats of the African Union and the CARICOM. Then they'll discuss them at the next General Assembly. I think the African Union one is next year. Is there one? There might be one towards the end of the year, but the next major one is always in February, early February, March there. So, and then it will trickle down. But you can already start to take advantage of this and make plans. And we can also put our spirit behind this so that it accelerates, beloveds, and let people know. I see it, beloveds. Free visas. Although, African Union, do we need visas to go to different African countries? So some of these, as people were saying, are pipe dreams because we haven't even sorted our own houses out. But I really see that there is a spiritual significance to this because there's now the reconnection, they did the reconnection. And now, as I always say, beloveds, the spirit of Africa, the spirit of our ancestors, the spirit of ancient ones is in control now. Our only primary responsibility, especially if you're not here on a mission, many of us are here on a mission, but especially if you don't know what your mission is, you're here to save yourself. And those of us who are here on a mission, first we have to save ourselves and use our gifts to heal ourselves, to teach ourselves. Whatever your gifting is that you want to give to the world, you have to use that on yourself first. But we can already add this to our chanting list, beloveds, our prayer list for the unification, for all these things, for a direct flight between, the Caribbean and one African nation. And start to do what we need to do. Because the lady who was talking about the licensing that needs to happen to have a direct flight, even if it's a charter flight, apparently the licensing takes 3 years. So you see how Babylon slows everything down? Anyway, if you have any links to what, the outcomes, because they even took the live feed down. But if you have any links to the outcomes, let me know. Dr. Mumbi at drmumbishow.com. Tuko pamoja.